All right, away we go again, back into Ecclesiastes with our hopefully 15-minute-ish devotional. What we've seen in Ecclesiastes then is he is looking at life under the sun, that is, life on this planet, life that we can see with our naked eye, and he's saying that there is no ultimate purpose, no greater meaning that we will ever find with life under the sun. What we have to do is we have to incorporate God into the recipe, and then we will have significance. We will have meaning in life. He said it in Ecclesiastes 2, verse 24. There is nothing better for a man than to eat and drink and tell himself that his labor is good. This also I have seen, that it is from the hand of God. And there is the meaning to life. There is a significance there. What we've been doing, we've been going through Ecclesiastes 3, where it talks about there's an appointed time for everything under the sun, every event, every season, every chapter of our life. It's part of an appointed time that comes from God. He's sovereign over all of this kind of stuff. So that's what we've been looking at here. And don't ever think that because God has this appointment for us, he's got our lives scheduled out, that it's going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. It will be hard walking down here on this planet. But the blessing is we can walk with God. And there is where the significance comes. There's where the purpose comes. There's where the love, joy, peace, patience, it all comes when we walk with God. If we're doing it on our own, vanity of vanities, there's no meaning there. All right, let's pray and we'll get started. Jesus, we thank you. We thank you for today. We thank you for this chance to look into your word. And again, we say that we need your help. Life on this planet is hard, and yet you will walk with us and you will give us meaning and purpose and joy and peace. So we ask that you change our hearts, how we do life here, and that Jesus, you would be a part of our time now with this message, and you'd be a part of our lives as we go on from here. And help me, Jesus, give me your words to speak. So we commit this time to you and ask for your help. And we ask in your name, Jesus. Amen. Okay, today we're going to do Ecclesiastes 3, 9 through 11. It's summarizing what we've looked at so far. So Ecclesiastes 3, verse 9. What profit is there to the worker from that in which he toils? I have seen the task which God has given the sons of men with which to occupy themselves. He has made everything appropriate in his time. He has also set eternity in their heart. Yet, so that man will not find out the work which God has done from the beginning even to the end. So he starts with the question. This question is all through Scripture here. What profit is there to the worker? What profit is there to the worker from that which he toils? What is the point of life under the sun? This is the third time he's posed this rhetorical question. This is what his research is all about. What's the purpose of life? So it's nothing new here. He asked it in chapter 1, verse 3. He mentions it again in chapter 2, verse 11, and he mentions it here. In this specific context, he's asking the question again, what's the purpose of life, in light of the fact that God is in control of all our circumstances and all the events and chapters of our life. If God is in control of all those, he's pulling the strings, then why do I bother working? That's what he's getting at this time. And then he gives the answer. Why do we bother working? What's the meaning of life if God is working under the sun? Verse 10. And in verse 10, he gives us qualifications. Again, he's done this before. It's a pattern repeating itself. He says, verse 10, I have seen the task which God has given the sons of men with which to occupy themselves. I, Solomon, Kohath, have been enabled by God to see the purpose of life under the sun. I'm the scientist. I'm the researcher. I'm the guy who's qualified to give the answers. So the question is, what's the meaning of life? I, Solomon, am qualified to answer it. But notice here, I have seen the task which God has given to the sons of men. And that's the critical part. God gives these events. They are not random. God is in control of all of this stuff. Life under the sun, which seems vanity of vanities. Genesis 3, verse 19 talks about it. God responsible here. He says this is the curse on man after the fall. By the sweat of your face, you will eat bread. And it goes on from there. Life on this planet is going to be hard, guaranteed. Then he also says in Acts 17, verse 25 and 26, talking about God, he says, he himself gives to all people and breath and all things. God gives everything to everybody on this planet. And he made from one every nation of mankind to live on the face of the earth, having determined their appointed times and the boundaries of their habitations. God has made life difficult here since the fall. We're separated from God. And God has decreed where you're going to be and the work you're going to do. And yes, the work will be hard. God is in charge of all this kind of stuff. And that's important here, that we recognize right at the onset that this is what God has given us to do. And it's not going to be easy all the time. As a pastor, I've dealt with some nasty divorces where one of the partners is vindictive and I'm gonna destroy my spouse. And often the spouse who's about to be destroyed wants to grow closer to God. A lot of tension there. They're trying to grab hold of God's hand as they're being betrayed by the person that they've given their life to in love. Hard stuff. But grab hold of God's hands. It's not easy, but grab hold of his hand and walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and you will find peace. That's what this is all about. All right, now he moves on to verse 11, where he gives the answer. What profit is there for the worker? Here it is, verse 11. He has made everything appropriate in its time. Some of your translations will say he has made everything beautiful in its time. It's actually a better translation. The New American says appropriate. The word here, did I write it? Yes, the word is yafa, and it means he's made everything fair. He has made everything well. He has made everything beautiful. God has made everything beautiful in its time. That's the point of this. God is in control. God is doing all of this stuff, and there is a time to plant. And it's a beautiful time. There is a time to uproot, and it is a beautiful time. There is a time to kill. There is a time to heal. That's what he's getting at here, that God has made everything fitting. He's made everything beautiful in its time. So everything is appropriate. There are no mistakes. This is God's hand here, and if you're looking for meaning, that's where you're going to find it. God has made everything appropriate in his time. All the difficulties, all the blessings, walk with God through them. He's the one who makes it beautiful. If you're going through struggles, God can take some nasty circumstances and turn them around and make them beautiful. Jesus talked about loving your enemies. These are the people that are out to get you, and you can love them. You can take someone hating you and someone being your enemy, and by the grace of God, you can turn it into something beautiful by walking with God and recognizing that this enemy is one of the seasons God has given you, and it's a beautiful thing. We can learn a lot from our enemies if we get past the anger and the bitterness. There's lessons to be learned. One of them is, I don't want to be like him when I grow up, or I don't want to have those kind of attitudes, or I really need to learn how to be gracious and forgiving this person even though they're stabbing me violently in the back, figuratively speaking, or literally, I suppose. Anyway, so God has made everything beautiful in its time, but notice he has made. God's doing this. And that's the joy there, that we can trust and rest in God. So he's made everything beautiful. God's going to make it all fit together. Everything under the sun, everything in this time, space, world that God made, it's going to fit together because God's going to make it fit together. And there's beauty there. It takes faith to find it sometimes, but there's beauty there. Now, I get this far and I start to chafe because it's just, what's going on? Is there some kind of cosmic bully up in the sky who's pulling all the strings and everything down here on the planet, and I'm stuck? I can't see down here on the planet. It doesn't seem ultimately fair that I'm like a fish out of water, flopping around on the planet, trying to grab a hold of God's hand amidst all the pain. Like, God, can you give us some help down here? And that's what he goes on to explain in verse 11. He says, he's made everything appropriate in his time. I, the Lord, am in control. Yes, I'm pulling the strings. You're under the sun. You can't even see it, but I'm doing this. And then he says, but I've given you an advantage. He says, he has also set eternity in their heart. He gives every person on this planet a sense that there's something bigger out there. There is eternity out there. He's put eternity in their hearts. There's something bigger. So I'm going through a tough time down here on earth, under the sun, and I keep getting these sort of nudges. And it's like, there's an eternity, Rick. There's an eternity, Rick. And they keep nudging my heart. I need to move on it. God's given me an advantage there. Now, this is called, if you want to look it up in your theology books, it's called general revelation. God has revealed a bit of himself to every person on this planet. Every person under the sun has a sense of eternity in their hearts. Romans 2 verse 15 says this, talking about God and talking about the non-Jewish people, or we could say the non-Christian people. The non-Jewish people, they show the work of the law written in their hearts, eternity in their hearts, their conscience bearing witness, and their thoughts alternately accusing or else defending them. Every person has this sense inside of them that this is right and that is wrong. Every person on the planet has that sense in them, because God put that sense in them. God revealed himself in a limited way, but he revealed himself to these people so they'd have a sense that there's something bigger out there. There is an eternity. I need to do something with this. Romans 1, 18 to 20 expands on this a little bit. Let's see, it says, because that which is known about God is evident within them. Eternity in their hearts. It's evident within them. For God made it evident to them. And then he talks about another way God has revealed himself in a general sense. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power, and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that they are without excuse. So, God put eternity in their hearts. He gave us a conscience. Here it says that God has made himself evident within people. That's our conscience. That's eternity in our hearts. And he also says that he has made himself evident through creation. Psalm 19, 1 and 2, the heavens are declaring the glory of God. God is revealing himself to us. So it says that God has put eternity in their hearts. So I'm struggling down here. Life under the sun, I don't get it. It's meaningless, but there's something tugging in my heart because God's put it there. And I want to reach up and grab some eternal being. But then, hey, wait a minute. Here's the second ripoff, is that somehow this isn't enough information. Just because I know, I have a sense that there's some kind of deity out there, it's not enough information for me to grab hold of the creator of the universe and walk with him through my pain. I need more information. And so what God has done here, what this should do, is we've got two options. I'm going through struggles. I've got this sense there is eternity out there. I want to somehow get out of it. I got two choices. Romans 1:18 says, the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth. Option one, I get this sense that there's a bigger picture out there. Well, I'm going to suppress it, and I'm going to make up a weird religion about reincarnation, or I'm going to say I evolved from an ape or something like that. I'm going to suppress the truth. It's in there. No, I'm not going to pay attention. I'm going to twist it and suppress it. That's option one. Option two is that based on this nudging in my heart, I'm going to seek, and I'm going to sincerely seek. 2 Chronicles 15:2 says, what does it say here? The prophet is speaking to Asa, and he says, and if you seek him, if you seek God, he will let you find him. God is in control of this. He will allow you to find him. If you seek him, he will let you find him. But if you forsake him, he will forsake you. Jeremiah 29:13 says the same thing. You will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. So we've got this sense that God is out there. It's eternity in their hearts is what he's talking about here. We've got the sense that God is out there. That should provoke us to seek. And if we seek, we will find. Matthew 7 verse 7, you probably quoted it. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. So the advantages that God has given here, life under the sun, meaningless. Koheleth comes along, Solomon comes along, says, I'm qualified to give you some answers here. The first answer here, God is sovereign over the time. Everything is appropriate in its time. Everything's beautiful in its time. You having trouble with that? Yeah. Well, just because of that, God has put eternity in your heart, so you know there's something out there. You've seen it in creation. You've seen it in your conscience. Based on that, you can suppress it, hopefully you won't, or you can pursue it, and you can start to seek for God. And if you seek, you will find. God will allow himself to be found. So that's what we're doing here. And by the way, see this book, Eternity in Their Hearts, written by Don Richardson. It's probably 30 years old now, but he talks about how every tribe all over the world has some precursor of the gospel in their culture. And there's another one. Anyway, time's up. So we're done. All right. See you next time.